In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. You may be seated. Well, let me commend Father Lloyd on that masterful job on that Old Testament. It's so funny. I knew Jessica wasn't going to be here, so I came in and said, who can I spring this on? And who's going to be the unlucky person that has to read all of these names? So thank you for taking that on. I want to spend just a couple of seconds talking about this passage because it is pretty astounding if you think about it. What is happening here is the equivalent of, I think, if we were to keep doing this for generations, for decades and decades, and then all of a sudden, as we're doing spring cleaning, as we had to do next door, somebody comes to me and says, I found a book. And I say, what are you talking about? What book? And they bring it to me, and it's the Bible. And I look at it and say, I have no idea what this is. I open it up, read it, and be completely blown away. We haven't seen one of these things. I don't even know what this is. We haven't seen it in generations. That's essentially what is happening here in this passage in 2 Kings. They're doing some spring cleaning. They clean out the temple. It's full of old manuscripts and just junk that's just accumulated, as often does when you have a structure for a long time. Junk just kind of accumulates in various corners. They're doing spring cleaning, and the scribe is approached. Hilkiah, the high priest, says to the scribe, hey, I found the book of the law. And the scribe says, the what? And they're sort of trying to make sense of the fact that not only do they not know what this is, they didn't know where it was, where it came from, and nobody's even read these words for literally generations. So they bring it to the book, or they bring the book to the king. Josiah looks at it and reads it, and he's completely heartbroken. We had as I was growing up, we had a game, a board game, and my brothers and my sister and I would play it together, and we just absolutely loved this board game. However, it was already really old. A lot of the pieces were missing, and we just played it the best we knew how. Well, at one point, as my mom's kind of cleaning up and doing some spring cleaning, she finds the directions for this board game. Lo and behold, we were playing it completely wrong. We were just kind of making it up the best way we could. And all of a sudden we find the directions to this game. We look at it and we're like, holy cow, this is not at all the way that we were playing this game. We had to completely rethink what we thought and how we approached this game. Essentially it was the same thing. Josiah looks at this and says, we haven't been doing any of this. There are all these very specific rules and regulations, and we haven't been doing any of it. Most importantly, is they approach this prophetess and kind of let her give her assessment of the situation. She says that one of the biggest things that God is angry about is the fact that you were offering incense to other gods. You are, rule number one, don't worship other gods. That's the one that you have forgotten the most. That's the one that you've been completely ignoring. They have to completely rethink how they are living their lives, how they are worshiping God, how they are interacting with each other in the light of this revelation. We picked up in Matthew 5, again, this is the Sermon on the Mount, a very, very famous passage in the Gospels. And we talked last week about Jesus' delivery and its similarities to the law that Moses delivered, this very law, the thing that Josiah under his reign had been forgotten. Jesus delivers this law in much the same way. He's delivering the words of God, the instructions, the rules for living to the people. Jesus reshapes some of the most well-known passages from the law and reinterprets them for his audience. You've heard it said, but I tell you. And we'll read some more of that next Sunday as we get deeper into Matthew 5. But what we just read, it's part of this very famous passage, explaining to his listeners what it means to be a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. What does it mean to be a member of the kingdom of heaven? How would you live your life? How should you be living your life? Citizenship was extremely important in these days for a number of reasons. Of course, Rome had conquered much of Europe and the Middle East, but you didn't just automatically become a citizen, a Roman citizen, if you were conquered, if your land had been conquered and annexed into the Roman Empire. You were either a Roman citizen by birth, or you were granted citizenship by a Roman official at some point. But it wasn't automatic. But once you got it, then you had the rights and the privileges that the average person didn't have. Paul uses this as sort of an ace card a couple of times in his ministry. He gets arrested or he gets in trouble and he sort of pulls out his Roman citizenship. And the reason for that is because he would then be given a fair trial. He couldn't just be flogged for no reason. He had to have a trial with witnesses. It had to be a real ordeal that he was granted because of the citizenship. But so Jesus is talking about not Roman citizenship, but he's talking about what it means to be a citizen of God's kingdom. Not Herod's kingdom, not the emperor's kingdom. What does it mean to be a citizen of God's kingdom? Yes, what rights and privileges are you given, but also how are you going to live your life? What are the laws? What are the rules that should govern you? Jesus seems to be saying, however, that if you are a citizen of this kingdom, things may actually get worse for you. How's that for a pitch for immigration reform? If you become a citizen, it's actually going to get worse. You're going to get persecuted because of me, Jesus is saying. You're going to suffer for my name. Yes, your place in the heavenly kingdom will be secured, but that doesn't necessarily mean that things on this earth will be any easier for you. Life will be hard. You very well may face extra hardship if you follow me. But what also Jesus also seems to be saying is that instead of shrinking back from the opposition, instead of retreating in the face of persecution, just stand and engage. What does he say? Let's read it again. Jesus says, "You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is then good for nothing, but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men." Salt was a valuable commodity in the ancient world. We think about it primarily as a food flavoring, which of course it was for them as well. Some of you don't eat your food unless you completely doused it in salt first. I've watched some people sit down at a nice restaurant, and the entree comes out, beautifully prepared by the chef, perfectly positioned and flavored exactly how he wants it. I've watched some people reach for the salt shaker and just start before they even taste it. Some people just love that flavor of salt. Salt has this magical way of enhancing flavor, but it also is incredibly important, of course, for the preservation of food. Think about a time and place where there's no refrigeration. Preserving food is incredibly important. Salt is used because most bacteria, other organisms don't like it. They can't survive in a highly salty environment. So salt enhances the flavor, but it also purifies and preserves. If you, as Jesus' follower, are being compared to salt, what does that mean? It means that you should be enhancing the environment around you. It means that your life and your good works should provide a positive flavor to the atmosphere in which you're placed. And it also means that your life should purify whatever environment that you're in. Think about it, enhancing and purifying. That's what your presence should do to the world around you. But of course, Jesus doesn't stop there. What else does he compare his followers to? He says, you are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. The season of Epiphany, which we're still in, is all about light and revelation. Like the lights being turned on, suddenly you are able to see everything clearly. I think we sang the first Noel this morning just to remind us that at some point we're going to take that creche down in the corner. I think that was Eva Jane's reminder that I probably should have been done already. So we are the light of the world. You know, obviously Christ is called the light of the world, but he's looking at his followers, those listening to his sermon. You are the light of the world, he says. This phrase, light of the world, was actually not an uncommon phrase in first century Jewish communities. Oftentimes it was applied to somebody that was especially influential, like a Jewish rabbi. He's a light in this world. He's the light of the world. But Jesus, instead of applying it to a well-known person of wisdom, he's applying it to all these common folk that have gathered around him. People that couldn't read, presumably. People that didn't really have a place in society. People that were just barely hanging on, barely feeding themselves. Peasants. He's given the designation to them as well. You have the responsibility to illuminate, to perpetually brighten a world enslaved in darkness. You are the light of the world. We can talk about the properties of light, the ways in which light drives out darkness. But I want to draw your attention to the fact that light is, maybe above anything else for us in our eyes, light is conspicuous. Unless you close your eyes, you can't not notice a light shining in a dark place. It's not possible. And even more obvious is a group of lights together. I don't know if you've ever seen video from the space station as it rolls over the earth at night, and you see these vast pockets of darkness. It's floating in space over an ocean or over an area of land that's not very populated. Just vast swaths of darkness. And then all of a sudden it comes across a big city like New York or Shanghai, and tiny little lights turns into big groups of light, turns into a giant, just illuminated landscape, an explosion of light concentrated in a small space. You can't not see it. A city on a hill, Jesus said. You can't ignore it. A city on a hill. It's not just one light. Maybe one small candle on a hilltop somewhere. You might not be able to see it all that well. But an entire city. That's what we are. We're a group of illuminated, lights illuminated across dark places. Let your light so shine before men. And what does he say? Does he say, if you scream loud enough, then they'll notice you? Or if you protest enough, or you make enough of a ruckus, then they'll notice? No, he says, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. That's very often what people see first. What are we doing in the world around us? How are we enhancing the world around us? How are we serving others? What good are we doing in our community? That's what people see first. That's what draws them, and that's what draws their eye, so that they can then get to know the love of Christ. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works. And how does that, what results then from that? They glorify your Father in heaven. So we are called, this is our charge, to be salt and light in the Sermon on the Mount from Jesus this morning. Let us pray as we close. Well, Father, let us not shrink back from the darkness in the world around us. But let us confidently shine and illuminate the landscape. Drive out the darkness. Illuminate all in your wonderful, glorious light. Let us be salt and light in a dark place. Pray all this in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.